What's going on in movies, and why are some thrilling and exciting and fun and others feel predictable and boring? One of the great sins of any story is predictability. If I know what's going to happen, and in fact that is what happens, I would argue, in essence, you are failing as a storyteller. I can't stress it enough. Surprise in your storytelling is one of the, if not the most important element. It's got to be legitimate surprise. If it feels like surprise merely for the sake of surprise, you're in trouble. But legitimate surprise that makes sense, it's just thrilling to us. We are so rarely surprised in real life and so charmed by legitimate surprise that it's very moving to us. You know, in a movie, you have one scene to establish the character. That is a function of human nature. Think about human nature. So you're walking down the streets of New York, or 100,000 years ago, you're walking in a jungle or the savannas of Africa, and somebody is coming towards you. What must you do? I look at Walter. Walter's coming towards me. He's carrying, what are you carrying? You know?
It's not judgment.
Okay, yes. I have to say, is he a threat? Is he going to kill? Yes, they think you're a threat, Walt. I don't know what you've done during lunch. Filmic storytelling is action and reaction to define meaning. You set up a parameter in the scene. Does that make sense to you? You have a parameter. And how do you get from one to the other in an interesting way? What do you talk about? Do you use threats? Do you use kindness? Do you manipulate with objects? Do you cajole? Do you persuade? What do you do? In real life, when you want something from another human being, what do you do? How many of you are manipulative? If you're writing, you need to be manipulative. I want to see all hands. How many of you are going to be more manipulative now? There you go. You're manipulating every moment, every scene, every action of your characters in your story. So you're manipulative. Every time you have a story idea, I want you to think about it as, is this a movie idea? Is this a TV idea? Is this a stage play idea? Is this a novel? Some were, you know, they did Harry Potter on stage. It's a good book and it's a good movie. So some things transcend genre. And I want you to start thinking in your life, when you watch a TV show, a movie, read a book, why sometimes when you're manipulated, you feel laughter, you feel scary, you feel drama, you feel tension. Why do you enjoy that sometimes and other times you reject that? And that's, I think, the function of good storytelling versus... I remember seeing the movie Steel. It's so funny how dated all this is now. Years ago, we used to have to all watch the same movie on an airplane. Remember that? There was one screen, and we all watched the same movie. The entire plane was watching Steel Magnolias at the same time, and all the people in the movie were dying of cancer. And everybody in the whole movie theater, which was the plane, were crying. And they played that music that makes you cry at the end, and I felt dirty and I wanted to take a shower, and so I felt like the movie had manipulated me to feel emotions that weren't earned. So that was what I would call illegitimate manipulation through Hollywood storytelling. You know, when Rudy, who's spent the whole movie trying to get in the football game, gets to play and the fans embrace him, I start crying. That feels legitimate. He's struggled really hard. But other times, I might have a emotional response, and I'm like, that unearned, illegitimate. Okay, they manipulated me, and then I reject that. Okay, I'm starting to feel something. You know what? They didn't earn that. They didn't do the work in the story to get me to feel that. They're just trying to play the music. They're trying to manipulate me, and I actually will turn the channel. I'm not going with you. So it's that contract. You're taking the audience to a place, and they have to willingly go along with you. And at any point, we live in a society where you can change the channel. Ideally, as I said, and this is what I want you to think about, because you're always thinking about your audience, I'm going to trick them in an interesting and exciting way so they think this is going to happen. But then when this happens, they're going to say, oh, I should have seen that, but I didn't. You win. I accept that. So everything that happens should make sense, but you didn't see it happening that way. This rule still applies to romantic comedies, because if they get together in the exact way you predict they're going to get together, that's not a great romantic comedy. A good storyteller will find a compelling, unusual, interesting way for that to happen. I want it to happen, but I don't want it to happen in a way I can predict easily in my head. Good storytelling is about clear causation. This moment causes this moment, which causes this moment. And we believe that causation. And we need those chain of events to happen in that order for the story to make sense. You're writing a script, and everything that I think is going to happen happens. You're not going to have any success. So what is the faraway John principle? And this came out of a conversation I was having with a friend who said they were reading a script and they really had to go to the bathroom. But the story was so compelling they couldn't stop reading, and they crossed their legs and held it in. Okay, so I imagine my reader, there's a faraway John. There's a John in the distance. They need to go, and how do I keep them from going? How do I keep them? And there was a term I used to love called, that book's a real page turner. Remember, people don't really say that anymore. But that idea, is your story a page turner? That's actually a great character's name. What's your hero's name? Page. Page what? Page Turner. So you have this idea that the old serials used to be called cliffhangers, because at the end of every episode was a cliff, literally someone hanging from a cliff, and you wanted to come back to see the next episode to see what would happen to that person. Are all your scenes exciting enough that there are... So this is interesting. You want to create a question mark in your audience's head. Now, the question mark isn't, I am confused, what's going on here. The question mark is, what's going to happen next? And if you know the distinction between those two question marks, you're in good shape. That say, you know what, I've never seen a scene like, you should literally challenge yourself. Have I ever seen a scene like this before? If you have, then how can I make it more unique? If we like the main character, we are more likely going to be persuaded to go along on a journey with them.